Behind the screens from the UT Video Game Archive, this is the first of several kiosks I've seen here at the Barbara Jordan Terminal at Austin Bergstrom Airport, day before Thanksgiving 2009. Since I don't think the archive has a permanent display in public, they have this display here at the airport, people to pass by on their way to the holidays. It'll be here until the end of January. This is concept art from a video game that was never published. The caption says it's a junction point soldier for a game called Austin Internet Role Playing, which eventually led itself to the name of Warren Spector's current studio, Junction Point Studios. These kiosks seem to be, in part at least, stuff that was made here in Austin and Austin's many video game studios over the years, but in particular they're actually showcasing the private collections of three luminaries: Richard Garriott, also known as Lord British, George Sanger, also known as the Fat Man, and Warren Spector, also known as Warren Spector. So not all this stuff is actually made in Austin. Right here there's a game called Robot Rascals, which has the EA logo. It was co-created by someone named Dan Bunton, who later was known as Danny Bunton Berry. Not only a pioneering game designer and programmer, but also one of the first luminary transsexuals. And below that is some concept art for Wing Commander. I'll probably be cobbling these together in some poorly edited fashion. The next kiosk on one side has some concept art from Fat Man's collection from a game called Cyber Strike 2 by Sony Computer Entertainment. Don't know anything about it, to be honest. Apparently it has some shooty weapons and spaceships and maybe some aliens that blow up. Here in the corner here I have some more concept art. Ultimate fans will recognize the avatar going through the moon gate. And apparently this is some kind of representation of the avatar and two of his companions. If you hear some live music in the background, that's because there's a live band playing just to my left. It'll probably get louder in the next video. Third kiosk has some concept art, actually a layout of Castle British from Ultima Underworld 2, The Stygian Abyss, as well as some script from same game, I think, anyway, although I don't recognize the name, the Night Disciples and their amphitheater. The apocalypse is nigh, and thou shalt be refined by its holy fire. Someone's written up in the margin, lip sync R. So apparently this was an audio guy's job. Well, actually, down below it actually explains it. And it also explains the earlier concept art I saw of a game called Cyber Strike 2. Apparently Fat Man did the audio for this. And this is the kind of stuff that audio guys have to work with, or at least had to work with 10 years ago. Probably hasn't improved that much. Fourth kiosk, another showcase of the Fat Man's work, including the Fat logo, and the spec for a game called USNF Platinum CD Win 95. Yeah. Oh, it was a Jane's game. Well, that might actually have been developed here in Austin. 1997. The final version of U.S. Navy Fighters 97. It included music, voiceovers, and sound effects by the Fat Man and Team Fat. Kiosk 5. Games that never were. Some concept art for Ultima Underworld 3 that didn't get made. And a script document written apparently by Warren Spector, which says Arsenio Hall meets Leisure Suit Larry meets Max Headroom. What you need is Virtual Party. And here's a test cartridge for something called Son of Mule. Mule was another game by Dan Bunton, became Danny Bunton Berry. As the kiosk explanation down below, apparently Electronic Arts said they wanted them to put in guns and bombs. She refused, left the company, and died shortly thereafter of lung cancer. Ultima Underworld 3, I'm assuming this is not the version that Arcane Studios was trying to make. But yeah, the one that eventually became Arx Fatalis. And something called Wild Snake for the Super Nintendo. Not released, not even announced. A recent interview said something like, I can't tell you what we're working on when the company folded, but it was some good stuff. Kiosk 6 in my big shadow. Someone's shelf of old games that are apparently being processed at the archive. The live band's pretty loud because it's actually right behind me here. Some more docs from a Calipath, also known as Ultima Zero. This was in fact the first game developed and released by Lord British Richard Garriott and led to his luminary and signature series, Ultima.
Once upon a time, kids, they had to do it with graph paper.
Kiosk 7 at the airport terminal seems to be a tribute to the Fat Man and his, well, his prowess. And apparently all this is paraphernalia and propaganda of his services as a cowboy audio producer. And he is quite accomplished at both of those things. Kiosk 8 is all about Wing Commander. Task breakdown, some concept art, and a few written notes addressed to Warren and signed Chris. Down below, though, that's from Ultima 7, the Blackgate. Fans will recognize the Guardian's sinister face as it appears from the darkness. Kiosk 9 has one of my favorite games of all time, Deus Ex, which was certainly made here in Austin. It has some concept art. I'll zoom in a little bit more. What J.C. Denton might have looked like if the artists had had their way and the Unreal 1 engine would have supported it. Some of the marker on the side says too scruffy, too big. His feet are too big. Too spandex. This guy can't pass for normal. And a closed design document that probably won't ever be opened. A quote from William S. Burroughs, "Paranoia means having all the facts." Duke Nukem 3D, well, it's from someone's collection, but that wasn't developed here in Austin. That's a Dallas game. Their studio shut down recently. You may have heard of that one. The stuff on the side, Knights of the Old Republic wasn't made here in Austin. It wasn't made anywhere near here, although it is the basis for a pretty big game. The Old Republic, an MMO made by the BioWare office here in Austin. 10th kiosk, and we're near to the end of our journey. One side advertises Akalabeth. Beyond adventure lies Akalabeth, a game of fantasy, cunning, and danger, and different high-res monsters. And you may be interested to find out what passed for high-res back in the days of the Apple II, but I'm sure at the time it was really impressive. Inside, Wing Commander. Doom is another game that wasn't made in Austin, but is at least a Texas game because it was made in Dallas. Brief mission description for campaign game for, I guess at the time was called Wing Leader, later became Wing Commander. And Ultima 4, Quest of the Avatar. Really remarkable game in that, the fourth in the series of the game that more or less defined a continuing computer RPG. The first time you had to be the good guy. And once upon a time, that's what we used to put our games in the computer.